Willkommen zurück auf Schalke America. Happy St. Patty's Day. I'm your host, Richard. Joining me as always, co-host Jack. Sláinte, my friend.
Yeah, not much in a celebratory mood, unfortunately, as a result of, what do we want to call it? Just fuckery over the course of the weekend, or I don't know what the opinion's going to be in the chat or from you today, but I'm sure we have a lot to talk about in terms of refereeing decisions and other things and how that result went. So, yeah, disappointing. Looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay as positive as I can. I got some Irish music for St. Patty's Day today. I want to wish a happy birthday to Edin Džeko. Rumor is he'll be spending the next 2 match days celebrating, apparently, because he's not going to be playing. But we'll get into all of that. A lot to get into. Glück auf to Joseph. Glück auf to Eric. See you guys in chat. Anyone else who's listening along, watching along, let us know where you're watching at, and give us a shout out in the chat. Ryan, I see you. Absolutely, my friend. I saw that. We'll get into that. Rundown for tonight. We're going to obviously talk about the Hannover match. We're going to get into some talking points and, as poetic as Jack said, the fuckery that happened. And then we'll look at some team news and how the other teams for Schalke fared, and then look at Darmstadt on the horizon. But let's get things going, Jack. 2-2 game against Hannover. Let's get into the lineups at least first. For the visitors in Hannover, Noel Knoll in goal, very solid goalkeeper. Algeier, Leopold, Navrachki in defense. In midfield, you had Auden, Aseko Nakil, Thorsberg, Neubauer, Yokota in the attack, Kelman, and Saad. For me, looking at this lineup, some of the guys that obviously are going to stick out to me just because I've seen Hannover for so many years now. Leopold, obviously a good player in his own right. Yokota, a good attacker, always seems to do well. He scored, I think, in the last game we played against them. And then a guy I used to play with, St. Pauli, Saad. Saad is a very versatile attacker. So those are the guys that kind of jumped off the page to me before the game. What did you make of Hannover going into the match?
No, those are all good shouts. Nothing to add from me from a personnel standpoint, really. I think just the thing going into the match was, we had dropped some points against some easier opposition matches that we feel like we should have taken advantage of, and now we're getting into a more difficult period in the calendar and really kind of up against it and needing to get a result. And despite that, I thought things started positively once we finished the Schalke lineups here. But
yeah, for sure. The positives for us, you had the goalkeeper, number one, Karius, back in goal. In defense, you had Katic returning to join Becker, Kurachai, and Ndaye. In the midfield, you had Schallenberg, Alfauzi, Aushish, Ljubicic, and Karaman, all led by Edin Džeko. Good to see at least Katic back and Karius. In particular, Karius, not that Mueller did poorly or anything, but to have your big keeper in the game against a top opponent like Hannover and Darmstadt next week, it just gives a little bit of sense of relief, I think, to have the number one back.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the game that he had in this one and maybe different thoughts on it. But yeah, I mean, look, he's a cut above, typical Bundesliga 2 level. Of course, we want him back in the lineup. Not much more to say than that.
Yeah. Speaking of cut above, Derek Ray on the call, friend of the show, friend of the podcast.
Yes, sir.
Always love hearing Derek Ray.
Thank you for saying that, because I was actually just about to mention that too. It was nice to have a Derek Ray call. So, yeah, good shout.
It absolutely was. This game was a tale of two halves, or I don't even know what to call it, really.
Which is an issue in Derek Ray calls Schalke games, whether it's the Dortmund 4-4 or this time kind of in reverse. But yes, continue.
It used to be like our good luck thing, and all of a sudden now it seems like all these games are the chaotic games with Derek Ray, which is fine for him because the ratings go through the roof. But for us, we already have enough heart attack and heartbreak, it seems like, with Schalke matches. When you add Derek Ray, it just amplifies everything, apparently. So, good start for Schalke in this game. You saw early on. I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was Aushish, but someone set up Džeko early on. He gets a shot off on the far side. Noel makes a great save, kind of put it back into the box. But good opportunity early on by Džeko. Did you see who made that pass? Because that was a really good pass.
Mr.
Schallenberg.
Schallenberg.
Okay, good shout out
who once
there.
again had a decent game in possession multiple times. Did some good stuff going forward. And I thought that was actually probably the best save of the day from Noel, honestly. Kind of going opposite direction, gets a finger down or a hand down to kind of get that off, because it was a good shot from Džeko. So
it absolutely was. It absolutely was. Glück off asynchronous. See you in the house. Good to see you. 20 minutes in, there's a back pass. I don't know if it was Leopold or someone, but the defense made a back pass at the goalkeeper. Nearly led to a breakaway opportunity for Ljubicic, but Noel was on the spot for that one. 23 minutes in, you get to see the first glimpse of Hannover making an attempt at an attack. Saad with like a mini breakaway. Karius reading that perfectly well, made a big save. And then the big moment of the first half, in the 29th minute or so, great counterattack, and I'm going to give a shout out to Timo Becker. I've been giving a lot of shtick lately, deservedly so, but what a great pass to kind of lead the counterattack. Finds Karaman on the right-hand side, who crosses in the middle, and one-time shot by Edin Džeko, his sixth goal of the season for us, puts us up 1-0, Jack. Great start to the game at that point.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've been critical of Becker, I think justifiably so. I think there's criticism to go his way in this game as well, but there's also, positives from him in this game, and he did some nice things multiple times on the offensive end. This was just one of, he was involved in both our goals, really. If you want to talk about it. And this was just like as direct as you can get almost. And it's a great run from Karaman. He stays on side. He kind of holds his run for a minute, making a diagonal one kind of between the lines, gets that outlet ball, and then it's just right back across, no nonsense. And Džeko puts it away. And like I said, I think it was a much more difficult save, the first one to make, and he made that one. And this ball was closer to him. I think he was maybe unsighted by the position of the defender potentially, and he kind of reacted to it a little bit late. But once again, Džeko, fox in the box, big target, finishing stuff with even half chances like that, kind of where it's not his body's around him and whatnot.
Fox in the box, indeed. You mentioned Timo Becker, and let's just stick on that Timo Becker front. 38th minute, as you mentioned, chaos in the box. Timo Becker again centers the ball to Ljubicic, who gets a shot off, hits off the post, kind of causes this chaos. Ball eventually finds its way to Timo Becker, who gives the ball back, or gives the ball to El Fauzi, who kind of shrugs off the defender, crosses the ball into the box, nice ball in the air, and Karaman puts it away. Went to VAR to check to make sure everybody was on side, but ultimately good goal, up 2-0 in the top spiel, Jack. What not to love? Captain scores.
Yeah, no, and it's a really good sequence too for us to maintain possession and keep that kind of that chance alive as long as we did in the final third there. Recycled a couple of times, great activity from everybody. And then people aren't ball watching in that possession. People are moving around, trying to provide an outlet, keeping things alive. Coming in, making late runs, all kinds of stuff. And eventually, we're able to get another clear kind of ball off. And it's a great header from Karaman. I mean, it redirects it back post. I mean, textbook, good stuff. And at that point, once again, you have Karaman with a goal and an assist, which has been the case a lot recently. And it's like a Džeko Karaman thing, which is it's a great recipe when we can keep them both on the field.
Yeah. That's it, which seems to be an issue as of late. You always wonder when you're up 2-0 in any game, will you take the foot off the gas? I didn't really see Schalke taking the foot off the gas, at least in the first half. 41st minute, Aušiš had an opportunity really to take on some defenders, gets taken down just outside the box, set up a free kick. Didn't lead to much, but you love seeing Schalke continue to attack. Now, the one thing I think that I noticed, as good as they played in that first half, they did kind of fall asleep there just before the half, where a ball somehow gets past everyone. Kelman gets an opportunity against Karius. Luckily, Karius was not asleep at the wheel. Comes out, makes a big save, a point-blank save on Kelman, keeps it at 2-0, and we're there at halftime. Good first half. As we'll see a quote by Karaman later. This is the top spiel. Hannover is a team who is vying for promotion. They were just like 5 points behind us or something like that before or heading to the game, maybe even less. And we dominated in the first half for the most part, at least in my eyes. How'd you view that first half?
Yeah, I mean, you pointed out, a couple moments of danger from Hannover, and there certainly were those. But yeah, I agree. I thought that was overall very comfortable. We looked good. And it's what we always talk about. It's not just, yes, we scored 2 goals, we're up 2-0 at halftime, but it's also there were other moments that looked like they could have resulted in good chances. There were half chance, you know what I mean? It's just how the offense looks in general. And it's what we've kind of been talking about the last couple of weeks. There's just too many not too many. Not from this perspective of we're just like steamrolling people. There are significantly more people in the attacking half now that either have the ability to take on a player and beat somebody or shield the ball and hold something up and also like find a pass. It's not just Karaman out there trying to combine with himself and hoping that somebody is on his wavelength, for more than 5 seconds at a time so they can get something going. He has that with Džeko, but Ioshi's has that now to some extent. Lubicic is popping up and connecting people with people occasionally. It seems like there's a lot more cohesion up there, and that's creating, I just have more confidence in us like all the time. Even when we're not, converting some of these or scoring, we just look better in general.
Yeah, and it's even having an effect on our two defensive midfielders. Schallenberg's popping up and making plays, like you mentioned earlier. El Fauzi getting assists on the Karaman goal. So both those guys are now getting included. So it's funny because, and Derek Ray kind of made a mention of this during the game, how like all these new bodies that winter signings that are in the starting lineup, and you look at it, typically when the team brings in that many new bodies into the starting 11, it has a major effect on the team and not usually a positive way. What we've seen is that Schalke really didn't mess with their back side of the team, from Schallenberg, El Fauzi, and back. Other than Ndaye, they had to because Becker got injured, Vitaly Becker, that is. But they essentially changed everybody up top except for Kenan Karaman. And it was the right pieces by Baumann that they brought in, and all those guys seem to be working very well. And so it's that odd dynamic that you bring in so many bodies into the starting 11, and it actually works. And what we're seeing is that the defense isn't as stout as it was earlier, but the offense is looking really good. We're creating opportunities. And as a result, not only are the new guys doing well, Karaman now can feed off with some other creative players, and then other guys like Schallenberg and El Fauzi, they're contributing as well, and Timo and the left back in this case Ndaye, they're providing as well. So it's nice to see a big change from the first half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just feel like with Karaman especially, we get more out of Kenan Karaman in situations like this when he has people around him.
Yeah,
it's not that he still can't try to help carry us in situations like in the past, because he'll still get his 10+ goals a season or whatever, regardless for the most part. But he can contribute in terms of assists and other things more down now too, because there's just way more cohesion in people that are able to, like in the chat, like we play football for once. We're actually playing football. You know what I mean? We're not just hoofing long balls or whatever the situation is and hoping Franco DeSanto chases something down. So I don't know why he's still.
You brought him up, not me.
That's not fair. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, well, that was the first half.
There.
That was the first half. And then the second half, a lot of talking points, which we'll get into, but a lot of events.
Thank you. Sorry.
Freakatucci. See, this is OG right here. Freakatucci. He knows what's up. And obviously, Joseph knows about DeSanto and our disdain, particularly Jackson, same for him. But second half had some fireworks, no doubt about it. It starts in the 52nd minute. Really a play that seemed like a nothing play. And all of a sudden, bam, Džeko receives a straight red card for a high boot on Shaktun. Real quick, because we'll get into this deeper later, but thought instant reaction when that red card happened. Did you think it was a red?
I thought it was iffy. Anytime there's a high boot, there's a possibility of a red. I feel like you would like there for sometimes to be context. This is a situation where Džeko is turning, appears to be unsighted. There's the sun that happens. And there's a lot of factors coming into play that make it seem like potentially not as, intentional or have the ability to pull out of something. But I wasn't like thinking it was definitely not a red card. I was concerned about it when I saw it. So how did you feel?
I did too. I mean, there was no malice to it. It wasn't like our former goalkeeper who comes up the midfield and takes out a guy karate kick. No, it wasn't that. It just, like you said, there was context. There was going for a ball, he stuck his foot out, and by letter of the law and technically studs up, it is a card. I didn't like it. It was one of those borderline ones, but I mean, the referee had no hesitation in that, and we'll get into all that. Obviously, that changes the gameplay a little bit because we're down to 10 men all of a sudden. And it did not stop there. 79th minute, 78th minute, something like that. There's a penalty called against Katic. Another questionable play, Jack. I initially thought it was he got all ball. You watch the replay and he gets like, how'd you feel when you saw that penalty happen?
It's another weird one too. Yeah. So when this happened live, I wasn't convinced that it wasn't Katic who was fouled potentially. Like it looked like it was a weird bang play, and the way they all fell kind of looked suspect. Yeah, having seen it in the replay, he does kind of go through the player. I do think he gets the ball too. He does kind of wrap around the player and make some contact to get that ball. I think there's an argument to be made that once whatever Hanover player that was, whenever he makes his first touch, he doesn't have possession of the ball anymore. He's not regaining possession of that. It's a sideways touch. He's moving forward. He's like already, you know what I mean? Like, so to call a penalty at that point, I think I don't know. I think both of these are the kind of things that you and I talk about a lot, which is like you're putting the ref in a position where they can make those decisions if they feel like it. Kotic, I think, partially got ball, partially went through a player. I think both of them are a little bit harsh, but they're both possible, essentially.
Yeah. I feel the exact same way. Nonetheless, they did a quick VAR check, and as announced, it was a penalty. Upward step Leopold, and literally just before the kick goes, Leopold takes the kick. Our buddy Derek Ray says, "Hey, let's all don't forget that Karius made a save on Harry Kane when he was in England not too long ago." And seconds after that, great save by Karius. Could the shot have been better? Yes, but nonetheless, huge moment in the game. What a save! Big impact. This is not the first time Karius has done it for us this season. Fantastic save, Jack. There's obviously something happened after that, but instant reaction when Karius made that save. I saw what happened in the Discord. The Discord was going nuts when it happened.
Yeah, that moment in a vacuum, independent of what comes after that. I mean, I think sometimes when we ask, like, what's a player like Karius doing at Schalke?
Yeah.
I mean, listen to the Veltins-Arena in the immediate aftermath of him making that save.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think anyone can understand why a goalkeeper would potentially want to be, playing. I mean, it's pretty incredible. So yeah, great. I mean, great save, like you said. Was it top corner exactly? No, I mean, it could have been placed better. I mean, you're still at a disadvantage as a keeper. Good stuff from Karius, and that's the second time in this game already that he had made a pretty definitive intervention.
Absolutely. However, on the ensuing corner kick, chaos in the box. Ball ultimately goes across, hits off the post. Maybe Karius got a save on it, falls to Nabrowski, and he puts it away. Went to VAR to check if there was offsides. I thought for sure he was offsides. The replay or the highlight that they showed says he wasn't. 2-1 at that point, game on, and it's like, oh, man, here we go, Jack. What I was fearing happened. It was happening.
Yeah, so this is where I'm going to need your assistance in potentially breaking down, some other things that we've heard post, because I still don't understand exactly what happened here. If they somehow weren't offside, literally just positionally in terms of like the bat of the line, then okay. I don't know if it's just the angle that we had on the broadcast. Certainly looked like there were multiple Hannover players that were clearly offside. So then I was thinking, is it the thing where like if you're taking a corner kick, you can't be offside, but it wasn't directly from the corner kick. There was a header first, so that changes that kind of factor. So then I was like, is it that Karius makes contact with it and it doesn't hit the crossbar exclusively, and that's what they're calling? But like when you're looking at the replays, it's once again the sun is kind of making it almost impossible to like see clearly what's happening on the crossbar. So watching it live, like I was super confused as to why that was not disallowed somehow. So yeah.
All we know is that Dr. Robin Braun, the referee, said, get on the microphone and says, not offsides, kind offsides. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And to your point, like the replay showed that the other player was offsides, not necessarily him. It may be held on by Kotic or whomever. It doesn't matter at that point. But you could argue, if that player who was offsides was blocking the vision of Karius. We've seen that call many times taken back. And then I don't know how Nabrowski wasn't offsides. It just, I didn't like it whatsoever. Nonetheless, 2-1 at that point. It was like, oh. Then as a 90-minute marker and 90-minute time is cooking over, the fourth official says 7 minutes of stoppage time. You figured that was the case because you had the VAR check for that goal. Then you had an injury as well that happened just before the 90-minute mark. So that factored into the 7 minutes of stoppage time. Clock is ticking, tick, 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 97 minutes clicking, tick, 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 keep going. Ball goes out of bounds. Game over, right? No. Referee continues to play. Tick, 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 tick. Hanover just lost the ball into the box. Karius misses it. Hits Pickler, goes in the goal. In 97:48, the ball goes into the back of the net. 2-2. Jack.
I mean, yeah, it's obnoxious. We have 7 minutes of stoppage time because they need to spend time getting decisions incorrect through VAR, apparently. And then, 30 seconds after 7 minutes of stoppage time, the game's still going on and, ball comes in. Karius should get to it. I mean, it's Karius's fault, in my opinion. The other thing that's super unfortunate is that it's Timo Becker who's beaten. I'm not blaming Timo Becker for that goal necessarily, but like it's another unfortunate moment where he loses contact with somebody and is late. And if you had beaten his man there, that's not a goal there. So yeah, super unfortunate. Very harsh on us. I think we outplayed Hannover. I think we deserved it. To go up 2-0 and then to only concede through questionable penalty, a suspect offside decision, and then a lofted ball like in 8 minutes of stoppage time. It's going to look like a defensive collapse from us, but I think it's a pretty solid effort overall. Honestly, I think we kind of got pretty hard done by in this one. So hopefully we take some positives from that. But it sucks because like this was a game against good opposition. We got off to a better start than I think a lot of us anticipated, and we're thinking, hey, this is going to be 3 points that not that we like thinking wasn't going to happen, but like maybe it wasn't going to happen this easily. Like this is a good result. And then wouldn't you know it, not only does that result go away, now we have consequences potentially as a result of Džeko's red card and other things. So very unfortunate.
The anger's building here, as Joseph said here. Let's get into. We always want to find out what Manuel Gräfe thinks, right? He always likes to give his thoughts on how he views games and big calls and all kinds of Bundesliga games. And so, of course, he had some commentary on this. So let's start in the order of events that happened. Let's start with the red card, right? And I was curious, Dr. Robin Braun, has he called this before? Because I'm curious, if he calls this consistently, I'm all for it. That's fine. It's consistency. That's the number one thing we're looking for. Has anything similar like this ever happened before? Well, actually, yeah. 2 weeks ago in Hamburg against Mainz, Nicolai Remberg gets a yellow card for a similar play that Edin Džeko did. Only got a yellow card in that play. Manuel Gräfe brings it up in his comment about it. And he says, inconsistency is the enemy of the game. If Remberg is a yellow in February, Džeko cannot be a red in March. It is an unlikely challenge, not a violent one. By sending off the league, one of Schalke's best players on a 50-50 ball, Braun fundamentally destroyed the competitive balance of a promotion decider. So, Manuel Gräfe says the referee is not being consistent with his own calls, where one game he calls it a yellow card, and this game he calls it a red card, especially a game that has such implications in it as opposed to maybe just any other game. Hearing that from Manuel Gräfe, I'm 100% with it, because if this Remberg call or any other play, he had called this a red card before, I'm like, okay, well, at least this is what he calls. I understand that more. But he didn't. He's inconsistent. And like you said, the context wasn't included in his thought. It was just, by letter of the law, yes, technically studs up, it's a red card. DFB doubled down on it and calls it a 2-game suspension. Thoughts after hearing Manuel Gräfe make those comments?
I think Schalke should keep Manuel Gräfe on the payroll. It's working out so far. Okay. No, but you and I talked about this all the time. Like you and I, like as opposed to like Dennis Eitekin, who I know is also like well regarded, but we didn't like we didn't like a lot of decisions we saw him make, and we thought that like Manuel Gräfe was usually once again the more consistent, measured hand in a lot of these situations. Look, like I said, I still stand by that being a decision that a referee can make. And it seems like Gräfe is saying that like he doesn't disagree with that. He just thinks that like he errs on the side of not messing with huge matches if he can avoid messing with huge matches. And he thinks this guy was a little bit too trigger happy to take off a star player in the league for what he calls a 50-50 ball. So yeah, I respect that outlook. Like I said, I don't necessarily think it's the wrong decision to give him a red card, but I wasn't aware that he is being inconsistent with the rulings. And so in light of that, it makes it a lot worse and makes you feel even more aggrieved. So
Manuel Gräfe has been outspoken about how he feels the DFB are promoting young referees too fast, right? Instead of giving them the opportunity to kind of learn the trait that is. It's a difficult job as being a referee. Manuel Gräfe knows better than anyone else, right? And so he felt it was a young referee error. He kind of blames Braun for, as young as he is in terms of experience, his lack of feel for how a game is going and the stakes. That's what I think, what you can say about an Eitigen or a Gräfe. They could feel the game. They understand the implications, so they knew when to blow the whistle more or let the game play out. Braun doesn't seem to have that kind of feel to a game, and it kind of showed in that play there. Again, I think we're both in agreement, and probably everyone in the chat is, was it a red card? Probably, because it studs up just by letter of the law. But you look at context, could you have been lenient instead of yellow? Sure. Now DFB coming back and doubling down says 2-game suspension. I don't understand that. Even Derek Ray said, this should be at least a 1-game suspension. There was no balance in the play. DFB didn't think so. So it's just a whole thing with this, and I'm not necessarily hating on Robin Braun, but by any stretch, but it's inconsistent, and that's one of the things that makes people question referees is inconsistency, and that's all we ask for as a fan base.
Yeah, and if the second of those 2 games is discretionary on the part of the DFB, then also I have no idea, what they've been smoking. I'm not sure what the status of marijuana is in Germany recreationally or otherwise, but yeah, interesting. I don't understand it. I mean, it's one of those games where you're like, you don't understand how it kind of, the number of different things that kind of conspired to have this result be what it is. And then on the back end, it even getting worse when we hear this news about the suspension and whatnot. It's super disappointing.
I'm trying to find the comment on the penalty that led to the Karius, the Karius save. Ultimately, it said was like, I don't remember, I can't seem to find it right now, but essentially, he felt as close as it was as a bang play, and Katic did get the ball first, and there was no possession there by the Hannover player. That's a play where you in a 50-50 play, you kind of just let that go typically, especially if you feel how the game is going to that point. And he didn't. It's one of those plays where you can call it's hard because Katic does take the guy out. He does take the guy out, but we've seen so many times where the defender gets the ball first and then takes the guy out, and it's a good call. And it does depend on the referee, and it's maybe not having a feel for the game as a more veteran referee would. Maybe they want to call that situation. It doesn't make me feel any better that reading these Manuel Gräfe comments, just because it just kind of reinforces how we're feeling. But
yeah, and maybe this is my American football brain, trying to bring in rules about pass interference and whether a ball is catchable and those kind of things. But that's kind of what I'm getting. Maybe that's not part of the calculus here, but that's what I mean is even the first touch that he takes, I think he's lost possession at that point.
Yeah,
his first touch is bad, and then Katic still goes through him and clears it further than that, on the back end. To me, I don't know. So yeah, I think once again it's a decision that can be made. I didn't think it had to be made, and so both of the sort of judgment 50-50 calls from the referee and those decisions went against us. And then the offside call and the goal, that's not even a judgment call. I just truly don't understand what the decision was there or why. But yeah.
Now, the last one, obviously the goal that happened, Karius probably should have saved that, right? It's not the first time we've seen him miss the ball like that, misjudge it, but that's not the point where we're getting to. The point is the goal happened at 97:48 when they called for 7 minutes of stoppage time. And Ryan made a kind of point earlier where he said, nobody's going to agree with me on this, but I think 7 minutes was kind of low for all the stoppages. Also, there was a stoppage in extra time. So that's why they went over to 7 minutes. Manuel Gräfe commented on this, and he said, 7 minutes signaled is a minimum, but it is not an invitation to play until a specific result occurs. There was no VAR breaks or major injuries inside that 7 minutes of stoppage time to justify an extra 48 seconds. Braun essentially gifted Hannover a final chance that the laws of the game didn't provide for. So you can argue that the 2-2 goal that was happened was technically past the deadline, and Gräfe is saying that it's we've seen so many times, especially just for us, when Schalke's trying to get the equalizer or something like that at the end of the game, the ball goes out of bounds at 97-22 or something like that, and it's like, blow the whistle at that point. It's already been 20 seconds over. But no, they allowed it to continue on, and of course, it always happens scores a goal. We've seen United benefit from this for years under Sir Alex Ferguson. I'm not comparing Hanover to United by any stretch, but like, yeah, should there have been more stoppage time? Before you said 90 minutes, maybe, but that's what they call it, 7 minutes. And yes, it only means it's a minimum, but usually, referee when the ball goes out of bounds and it's past the time, they already call the whistle, unless there's a lot of stoppages during that stoppage time, which I didn't necessarily see. So I'm kind of with Manuel Gräfe, like,
yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if I want to like nickel and dime this, and if it ends up being there's 30 seconds of extra stoppages, but there's 18 that we can't account for, and that's when I don't want to get too, and I agree that 7 minutes is the minimum, but yeah, I think our conception of it is 7 minutes is the minimum, but it's based on demonstrated stoppages, and then any more you add on that is on the basis of additional stoppages that take place during stoppage time, which couldn't have been accounted for prior to issuing the 7 minutes. It's not 7 minutes is the minimum, and then it's just whatever I feel like. So like from that perspective, yeah, I guess I'd have to go back and kind of look at it and see how exactly it was. But I was annoyed that, even after we stopped kind of one of their moves at some point past the 7 minutes, they still let them have another one into the final third, and that's the result of it. Still should save it. Karius needs to get that, but yeah, frustrating. No one likes to lose in the 98th minute.
No one does. Not at all, especially as good as we played in that first half, to have the game end like the way it did. Talking points, since we're talking about Hanover and this late goal here, the equalizer. Question marks aside, do you attribute that to tactical fatigue, misjudgment just essentially by the goalie alone, an unwillingness to quit in Hanover? What do you make of that, of how that goal transpired?
I mean, yeah, it's all of those. I mean, Karius is a world-class goalkeeper. He should not misjudge that, and he should get to it. And he doesn't have a sort of tired legs excuse like other people should. Goalkeepers should be a little bit fresher at that point than the people like Timo Becker, who's also involved in that have been running for 98 minutes. Yeah, I mean, the game's open at that point. We're just trying to play for the whistle. There's more space. The hoofing balls in. I mean, these things can happen, especially when you consider the fact that we were down a man and defending all those things too. This wasn't that we were, it wasn't like it was, 11 versus 11 or whatever, and they were doing this, which is still a dangerous situation. We still had a disadvantage numerically. So I don't want to make too much of it in terms of like a defensive collapse or anything like that. Like I agree with some of the comments in the chat, like frustrating. First half was positive. Second half, the game was kind of taken away from us as much as we lost it, and move on. So
yeah, and if I were to nickel and dime that last play, with Dirk saying Sanchez probably should have prevented that initial pass. He kind of gave too much room to to Bundu, who crossed the ball in, and then to your point, I think Karius misreads the play, especially as deep as the ball was crossed from. He should have been more in the box, and I want to see what I want to see at that point. One, you got to get the contact with the ball, and two, just take somebody out in the process. As long as you get the ball first, right? Maybe not so much with the contact with the red card or the penalty.
Yeah, I mean, he's not negotiating traffic to get to that.
No, he's not.
He just doesn't get there.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate there, and that kind of leads to, and I don't want to say it's tactical fatigue so much. I mean, it is because you're playing with 10 men and you're doing everything you can to stop it. But like, I thought we were pretty well set up outside of giving Bundu that much room, and then obviously not clearing the ball when the ball goes into the box there. So it's a little bit of everything, like you said, and it's very, very unfortunate considering how the game went and how other results went on the weekend, where we really could have put our foot in, one foot in the door essentially, with considering who we play next. But it is what it is, and then stick with Karius. Obviously, happy to have him back. He had some highs, this penalty save, but then he had some lows, like the equalizer. Thoughts on his game overall in this one? You're probably as happy to see him as I am, minus the different plays that happened throughout the match.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's an argument to be made that he could have done better on the first goal too, the one that hit the crossbar and gets deflected in, that he should have been able to react to that header a little bit better. And obviously he makes a mistake on the second one, in my opinion. So from that perspective, if people wanted to say he didn't have a good game, I understand it. But yeah, also had a great penalty save, had a pretty big moment where he came out one-on-one with the player, got big, made a save there.
Yeah.
So, those are the moments that we've been talking about him having throughout the season, moments where there's situations that certainly look like it's a high percentage chance, and he makes a crucial intervention that directly affects the score sheet, or almost seems to.
Yeah.
And he did that in this game on multiple occasions. Unfortunately, it was counterbalanced by some other stuff. So, yeah, glad to have him back. Hopefully his back and his other, things don't turn too chronic in terms of an issue that sees him kind of in and out of the lineup for the remainder of the year. I still want him in there as much as possible.
Yeah, I think he does far more good than he does bad. And occasionally, we've seen twice now in the Rückrunde where he's misjudged those plays. High balls are not his thing, but he does so many other things really well. He reads the game very well. He stays active, especially when the opposition don't have the ball as much as as sometimes happens, and or Schalke's really possessing and really trying to score a goal, and a counter happens. He stays awake for the most part, and he's we saw this in the game at least 3 times where he was awake while no one else is awake and made great saves on Saad, Kalman, and a couple others I think in the game. So things like this happen. It's football. Happy to have him back, but yeah, I'm sure he would want that last one back, no doubt about it. You can see his reaction when the final whistle happened. He was just sitting there on the pitch, like, God damn it, it's so bitch.
It's not that he hasn't made mistakes this season, but I think the point you made is a good one too. Like there have been a number of occasions this year as well where towards the end of a first half or something, a very quiet half on his goal, there's suddenly a chance where you would almost kind of like, not that you'd forgive a goalkeeper for being caught off guard, but like you kind of wouldn't be surprised. And he's been impressively sharp and on top of things in those moments, which has been great because you could see a player like him once again playing down a division, maybe not as mentally invested or locked in as he otherwise might be, but that certainly doesn't seem to be an issue for him.
It does not. It does not. And then the last talking point, really, outside of results, Džeko's red, as Dirk says. My concern are the next 2 games without Džeko. The DFB came down and said it's a 2-game suspension for Edin Džeko for this high boot. Schalke are appealing. I think Ryan mentioned in the chat earlier. Schalke are appealing, and rightly so. They should be. But let's say that the appeal does. It's rare that these appeals get overturned. So let's just say Džeko, in fact, is missing the next 2 games: the game against Darmstadt, and then after the international break against Karlsruhe. How do you feel heading into those games, particularly 1 against 2 next week, this week coming up, with no Edin Džeko as good as he's been for the team? How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, not good. Obviously, we've been significantly better since his inclusion. We still have some other key signings available that have been useful for us. So it's not just the Džeko show, but that has been crucial. I mean, I guess my question is like, what is the status of some of our bigger bodies in reserve potentially? Like, what other options do we have in terms of that aren't Silla? Not that I don't necessarily want to see Silla starting, but I'm just saying if you're trying to like go for sort of the profile of Džeko, not no one's gonna be able to match his class and his skills in some ways, but you like if you're trying to go for that sort of central nexus, like who can you call on? So that's kind of why,
Well, the players that are available in this match, you had Musa Silla, not necessarily the same profile, but is a striker, and Zaida Musa Chibara, and then you probably also have, I don't know the status of Hoyland is or Remberg. There's other bodies as well, but it does give us a question: what do we do tactically heading into this next big game against Darmstadt?
And Remberg would be the guy I'd be thinking of more than anybody else because early in the season, very early and very briefly, there seemed to be some positivity around his physicality and his ability to throw his weight around and win us some additional chances and possessions and stuff. So I would wonder if he's finally ready to get back in there. I know he's had some health issues and other things. I don't know what his status is at the moment, but that'd be my pick.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Schenkener mentions that we got a few guys on 4 yellows already. Schallenberg, Ihan, and El Fauzi all on 4 yellows. So depending on what happens, the Darmstadt match, they could be missing the game as well. For me, tactically, I mean, the first thought was, put Musa Silla in there, right? The different profiles for sure, but he's a striker and he's scored occasionally this year. But think about it more. A guy who was starting to do well before he got injured, um, Zaida Musa Chabara. He's not necessarily the profile of Edin Džeko, but he can play the striker role. He could play behind Karaman. He could play on the wing. He could do so many different things. Maybe you put Karaman in a false nine and you have Chabara out there. I don't know, but you maybe start out with Chabara and bring on Musa Silla, because Musa Silla, someone mentioned in the chat, like he hasn't necessarily been hustling or showing full commitment. And I just based on view, I'm sure he's trying hard, but it didn't seem has the same impact as a Džeko or some of the others. So I don't necessarily want Gomis for sure, but if I would pick, I would rather have maybe Chabara start the game, depending on how his health goes. And if he's not feeling it, then you bring on Silla after, because Silla can certainly go the rest of the way. But either of those two, if Remberg is not, I don't know where Remberg's status either. I haven't heard his name mentioned in a while. I haven't seen him on the bench in a while. So I don't know if he's with the U23s, and we're about to look at the U23s soon. But I think Chabara and Silla probably lead the way going into this game. Unless, maybe, just maybe, Musa throws a wrench in all our plans and puts
Petrosciani.
or that. Or I was going to say Karaman in the false nine and maybe have Bachmann in the middle with Schallenberg and El Fauzi to kind of clog that, especially playing against Darmstadt team who are very, very good. So we'll see. I'm curious to see what Muslic does in this, but there's some options, not necessarily the greatest options. Obviously, you want to have Džeko, but Karaman is still available, and he needs to be the focal point in that game. Hopefully others like Aušić and Lubicic and some of these others contribute too, because we're going to need all the help we can get without Džeko, because Džeko seems to be that guy who can bring everyone together and raise everyone's game. So,
I actually like that shout from you. Bachmann, like center attacking mid, number 10, masterclass, overdue. He's just going to be pulling the strings. He's going to be passing Darmstadt to death.
I'm with Ryan. Bring back Katucu. Bring back Katucu. Man.
Until that man retires, you're never going to hear me say no.
I mean, right? Looking at some of the results from the weekend, because heading into the game, we had some good results, I would say. Friday, Darmstadt drew to Magdeburg, so that was a good result. Elversberg lost to Greuther Fürth.
We specifically joked about this on the last podcast. Like, Magdeburg had to get the result against us. Hopefully they can, do us a solid against Darmstadt. Wasn't the victory, but hey, you know what? Especially given what happened with Hannover, I'll take that all day for them dropping points to the bottom team in the league. Good for Magdeburg, the giant slayers.
It would have been level. Yeah, it would have been level otherwise. And then Elversberg, who are just behind Darmstadt, they lost to Greuther Fürth, so that was great to see there. Nuremberg got a nice result against Kiel. Not really super effective, but Paderborn drew to Bielefeld. So another kind of giant slayer there. Hertha slowly creeping it back into the picture, but we're not talking about them here. Paderborn getting a draw. Elversberg losing. Darmstadt drawing. Good results for us, despite our draw. Yeah, it's good times. Look at the table. We have a slim 2-point lead, which we've had a slim lead all season. If we just won that game, we would have had a 4-point lead over Darmstadt. But hey, it's fight the league. It's never going to happen. Never be that easy. So 2-point lead against Darmstadt coming this weekend, and Elversberg and Paderborn right on their heels. So,
I mean, here's the thing. Schalke we're unbeaten in our last 5, I think. And that's the best form in the league. And it doesn't feel that way. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like we're like with momentum necessarily right now, or that we're like the hottest team in the league, but like over the last 5 games, we actually are performing pretty well. So that's, I guess, I don't know if it's a positive or negative. I think it's a positive. I don't know.
Yeah, draw last game, win against Bielefeld, draw against Fürth, beat Magdeburg, beat Kiel, drew Dresden. The last one was this Bochum on January 31st, the last time we lost. So to your point, yeah, it's absolutely we're in pretty good form. And we're also unbeaten against top 5. Ugh, that's probably the wrong time to bring this up. I should have waited until after Darmstadt to say that. But yeah, I guess it's better you saying than Derek Ray saying it on the call or something, right? The commentators jinx. But yeah, a big game this weekend against Darmstadt, as we mentioned before. Schalke are appealing the red card or the 2-game suspension, I should say, for Edin Džeko. either way, he's out for the Darmstadt match. But it'd be nice to have him back for Karlsruhe, especially if he gets some other guys who get another yellow in the game against Darmstadt and get suspended. But so there's that news, and then Karaman's comments after the games. Because if you look at the first half, Hannover are our top team, and we completely had them under control. We just let the game unravel essentially and lose the game. So it is what it is. No player made the kicker 11, though you could probably vouch for Karaman or Džeko for continue their fine form. How did the rest of the Schalke brethren and sisterhood handle this weekend? We're the ones who kind of spoiled everything because the Die Frauen, they won 9-1. They're back in winning ways. They won 9-1 against Tulln.
Yeah, none of the 3-1 nonsense from last week. That's a scoreline that I'm more comfortable with from the women's team. So we're back
baby. The U23s, they won 3-0. Let's try to see who the goal scorers are. No mention of Remberg there, so he's not with them necessarily. But U23s won 3-0 against Gütersloh. The U19s, they won 2-1 against Augsburg. Always good to beat Augsburg. So good to see that result there. And then lastly, the U17s, they won 2-1 against Werder Bremen. So they beat Wolfsburg and Bremen back-to-back. And both those teams are in actually relegation fight in the Bundesliga, for stat of the day for those who want. But that's how the youngsters are doing, or the rest of the Schalke teams are doing. So at least everyone else is performing. We kind of threw that wrench in there and didn't get that sweep of Schalke victories, but it's all right. It's all right. Darmstadt's next. We'll get out of here on this. I'm not going to ask for a prediction. What do you want to see from us to pull a victory or at least a draw in this match?
No more than one goal conceded. Darmstadt, number one offensive team in the league. Schalke, number one defensive team in the league. And while Džeko affects our ability to control the game, for sure, and while he affects our output on the offensive end, he should not, in theory, overly affect our defensive performance, and so that should not be an excuse. So that's what I'm looking for, is not having a collapse. Karius is back healthy, so it's not a backup goalkeeper going against Darmstadt either. We should be pretty good to go.
Yeah, I'm with that. Ryan says we win 9-1. That would be nice. Maybe Die Frauen can play, huh? They're healthy. For me, I think the main guy you got to control is Isaac Lidberg. He is just a beast, one of the best players in the league. But I think also part of that is we have to clog that midfield because Marco Richter is really, really good. And obviously in this last game you had Schmidt and Marcelo. But for me, it's Richter and it's Lidberg, especially Lidberg. He is such a fine player. He just scores goals in bunches and against us. So find a way to shut him down. And so I would not necessarily be against the Bachmann being in that midfield to kind of clog it. Maybe he'll be the one, him or Schallenberg, kind of is glued to him. But either way, I agree. Can't let up more than one goal. And we got to take our chances and put them away. People have to step up in Džeko's absence. And I think if we see that from the attack of Auschis does his thing, Karaman, Lubicic, everyone else, and get a timely goal by whoever the replacement is for Džeko, those would be good things that help us get a draw or a win in this game. So let's see what happens.
El Fauzi goal incoming.
Hey, I would take that. Everyone giving 100%, fine for every ball and creating chances. Yes. First start. Let's see. For former Glück talent and Mateo Bandic scores first goal. Champions League contenders scouted on fourth tier. Great to see. Good. All right. Let's get out of here, Jack. I think that's it. Unless you got anything else you want to rant about.
No, that's all for me.
All right. Where can our followers find you on social media?
Enjoying some corned beef and cabbage. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. That's where you can find me, JMMangan, JMMangan on Twitter. That
was my dinner tonight. It absolutely was. Read some of the comments here. Grinta the first minute and see what happens. Yeah, Silla scores 2. One more scream. You can find me at R_KHARMAN. More importantly, follow us at Schalke America all across social media. Share us with everyone. Join us in the Discord. And happy St. Paddy's Day to everyone for those who want to celebrate it and get a little corned beef in you and maybe some green beer. So next game is Darmstadt coming up. It is a big one. We'll have good idea, a better idea of how the rest of the season will go after that match. But for Jack and I, enjoy. As A. Singer says, 04. We'll catch you guys soon. Glück auf.